The aortic dissection story is very dramatic. I was here in Roberts Creek on the Sunshine Coast when I had excruciating pain between my shoulders. It's a funny story in itself. I guess funny is the wrong word, but uh, I knew what it was. I won't go through the details of that. I knew it was not a heart attack, that it was a dissection. So when the emergency ambulance people came, I said to them, don't get distracted. This is not a heart attack. I'm having an aortic dissection. Of course, the frequency of that is so low, they probably never seen one. So they ignored me and presented me to the hospital as a heart attack. And the hospital got distracted for a while, and I was semi comatose. But when I came to, I was being looked after by a great family doctor who was, in fact, a fully trained neurosurgeon from Nigeria, forced to practice as a GP. And he agreed with me that it was an aortic dissection and immediately changed course. Got a CT which showed the dissection exactly where I said it would be, between the aortic valve and the first takeoffs for the neck and arms. And he called the Coast Guard because it was snowing so much. The helicopters couldn't fly. And the last ferry had left. And so the Coast Guard came for me in a hovercraft, blind, using GPS and radar only, and they evacuated me to near Vancouver, where the surgery was done by a lovely surgeon named Daniel Wong. And the article that I wrote is first person, so I describe the voices of everybody, meaning me as the patient who happens to be a doctor, Dr. Atunji Orkamundi, who was the family doctor's stroke neurosurgeon who took care of me, and Dr. Wong. And, it's very dramatic. Dr. Wong says to Atunji, I don't know how you're going to get him to me, but if you don't, he'll be dead in the morning. And that kind of thing is in the article. So unfortunately, I suffered a fair amount of hypoxia during that whole event. I was slipping in and out of consciousness. I don't actually remember the transport at all. And I don't remember ever meeting Dr. Wong. But my daughter, Naomi, who is very well known, was there. And she said you had a conversation with him about the risks of surgery, but I don't remember that. But in any case, after the surgery, after a month or so, the myasthenia gravis that was latent and had really begun to show itself before the dissection became apparent to me. And maybe the way I think will come out in this story. So it was October 9th, in the second day of the Israeli-Hamas war, when I sat here and I said to myself, I have myasthenia gravis. And I figured it out because it was a mixture of vision issues, which are often the first sign, which I'd had for a number of years, and speech issues, which were just beginning to appear before the dissection. And so I called the ophthalmologist who had operated on my eyes because I had double vision. And I told him what I was feeling and experiencing. But before that, I did an experiment. It was a Sunday morning. And I said, well, I don't have the drugs at hand to make a definitive diagnosis, But in my emergency kit from my boat, I have some prednisone. It's very old prednisone, if I had any at all. So I went out to the garage and I got the emergency kit, and there was a bottle of prednisone. It was 28 years old. It was my father's prednisone. And I gave myself 60 milligrams of prednisone, and 4 hours later, my speech was normal. At which point, I made the diagnosis and I called the ophthalmologist and told him the story, including the fact that my tests had been equivocal for myasthenia. And he said, I don't care what the tests show, you have myasthenia gravis, and I should have picked it up. And he called the neurologist, who called me on a Sunday morning and started me immediately on a variety of treatments for it. But one of the other side effects or effects of that hypoxia was damage to the cerebellum. So I have cerebellar ataxia, which I also diagnosed. And so I actually am I walk and talk like a drunk these days, and use an assistance dog who is a big Russian wolfhound who I lean on with one hand and I use a cane in the other. And, that's permanent. The myasthenia is partially treated, and hopefully with some new experimental drugs will eventually get under control. One of my family doctor colleagues wrote to me and said, does that mean that we all have to write in the first person from now on? Do we all have to have the diseases that we write about? Anyhow, so that's a bit of a struggle right now, but hopefully, I'm managing with it. I can still drive. I can't walk, but I can drive, fortunately.
Yeah.
And I drive a scooter and have a van that works fine for getting my scooter into up a ramp and into the van.